Hi, welcome to the square form for seated students. As you were told in the movement video, there are two distinct movement patterns for this form. However, the actual techniques used are exactly the same. It's simply a matter of whether you're propelling yourself forward and attacking while in movement, or whether you move to your position and then have to defend yourself as the opponent closes with you. The long form, or the moving form, starts in the corner here, and one of the sacrifices we make is the offline theory. What we're actually doing is attacking from an angle to our opponent. So what I mean by that is, in the slow movement, we start at our 45-degree in here. And so our opponent is here. So when we move offline and we do our techniques, we're doing them over here. But we move, and then we have to do the technique. Remember, we turn and move, and then we do cross block left, sweep block right, overhead block left, long punch right. Slight angle to attack offline. In the aggressive movement-based, what we're doing is we are attacking an opponent wherever they are. And we are hoping we're offline, but it's more important to close the distance and aggressively counterattack someone who's coming at us. So what we're doing is, if someone has moved us, they're actually here, and we are already offline, we're going to turn on the line to attack them. So this form just starts right here, and if you're going to do the long push, we're going to go in a straight line, but we're going in a straight line at an angle towards our opponent. We don't want to have somebody facing us and push right into them. So for the sake of this movement, we're assuming the person is at a slight angle this way, because that's where we were headed. So we turn and attack. Now they have time to adjust to us. They're going to turn to us, but that turning is essential. We want the opponent to turn towards us as we do this. It's the same moves though. I'm going to do one push, and then I'm going to do cross block, sweep block, overhead block, long punch. And I go to the end of my point. But they're the same techniques. Whether I'm moving first and doing them, or whether I'm doing a push with the three moves, I'm going cross block left, sweep block right, X to overhead block left, long punch right. I'm either doing it in my small square, after I turn and push, and it's slightly off to this side, or I'm going straight down the line and doing it with one big push. Sweep, overhead, long punch. And that's more linear straight out. They're the same technique, slightly different angle of attack. Okay? Second set. We turn. And then after we turn, we're going to drive up to our X, and we're going to low block, spike the knee, long punch left. Okay? The second set of techniques is low block left, spiking right, long punch left. And there's a variation you can do if you've got good range of motion. I would prefer you to do this. X, block. This protects your head. If you can get your arm up over your head, it should be here. And then you drive this down. And then you punch. Okay? If you're in the smaller square, when you do this turn, you're going to be over here, slightly at an angle to your side. Because you're working the off angle, because you cannot use the aggressive closing techniques, because you can't do your push. So we either focus on making sure the person is off our angle, or we focus on closing aggressively, because we can only do one. That's why we have two versions of this form. Pick the one that you're best at and get it good, and then start playing with the other one. Try to learn both. Lucky you, you get two. So, techniques 4, 5, and 6. Low block left, spiking elbow right, long punch left, or it's over here. Block here, spike here, punch across your body slightly. Okay? But that is done with the push or after the turn. So if we're doing the long one, we do our push as we go in. Okay? Then we turn our chair and get set. The third technique is overhead, overhead, long punch. So it's going to be overhead right, X, overhead right, X, overhead left, long punch right. Okay? And you do that with your push, or you do that with your turn, and then you do it slightly over here. Overhead right, overhead left, long punch right. Okay? But we'll do it with the push for the demonstration. Overhead, overhead, long punch. Turn your chair. If you're doing the short, you've turned your chair, you immediately go into your last technique. Outside block left, python elbow right, long punch left. Okay? Outside block is all the way over here. Python's into the angled end, and long punch is angled in. If you're doing the push, it's all directly in front of you. You push, outside elbow punch. And you get to this end here. Then you turn your chair. And you turn it 180. And then you're going to go back the other direction. The other direction are the exact same techniques with the opposite arms. So now, we're going to cross block right, sweep block left, X overhead right, long punch left. If you're doing the small square and you've turned, it's here now. Okay? Cross block, sweep block, overhead, long punch. Okay? If you're doing a long one, you do the push. And then you turn your chair. If you're doing the small, you turn and move. If you're doing the long, you simply turn. The next one is X, low block right, spiking elbow left, long punch right. If you've got the range of motion, low block right, spiking elbow left, long punch right. And I prefer this one because you drive more power into the spike. Okay? If you've done the small circle, or the small square, excuse me, if you've done your small square, you turn and you just do that. Okay. If you're doing the small square, you've already done your turn, you just do the techniques. Okay? If you're doing the push, you do the push and you do the techniques. Turn your chair. Third set of techniques is again overhead, overhead, punch. So you're going to go overhead left, overhead right, long punch left. If you're doing your small square, overhead left, overhead right, long punch left. Slight angle, 45 degree. So we do our push and we do overhead, overhead, punch. Turn your chair. Turn and move for the small square, just turn for the big square. And your final one is going to be outside block right, python elbow left, long punch right. Or it's going to be outside block right to here, python elbow in, long punch. 45 degree, that's the small square. Big square is straight ahead. So I go straight ahead, turn your chair 180 degrees. And that's the square form. Now what we're going to do is we're going to film the square form twice from an opposite angle, starting on that corner, one with the big square, one with the small square. Square form, big square seated. Push, cross, sweep, overhead, punch. Low block, spike, long punch. Overhead, overhead, long punch. Outside python elbow, long punch. Turn 180 degrees. Cross block, sweep block, overhead block, long punch. Turn the chair. Low block, spiking elbow, long punch. Overhead, overhead, long punch. Outside block, python elbow, long punch. Turn 180 degrees. Small square. Start at your 45. Opponent's always inside. Turn to get off line and push at the same time. I'm now at the first end of my first line square. Cross block, outside block, overhead block, long punch. Turn and move. Low block, spike, long punch. Turn and move. Overhead, overhead, long punch. Turn and move. Outside, python elbow, long punch. Turn 180. And move. Sweep block, cross block, overhead, long punch. Turn and move. Low block, spiking, long punch. Turn and move. Overhead, overhead, long punch. Turn and move. Outside block, python elbow, and long punch. Turn 180.